It can be very difficult to experience a lot of loss and a lot of failure in life, or just feel like you can't really get things to work in the way that other people can. But if you're destined for awakening, there is really a divine purpose for this. So this failure, or what we could interpret as failure, can really be to really direct us to look inward. So when things are working out in life, when we get what we want, then we are unlikely to turn inward and to seek something else, to seek awakening, because there's no motivation to. But if things don't work out for us, if we lose jobs, if we lose relationships, if we lose money, or we don't get the things that the separate self wants, then it gives us the motivation to turn inward and to start this spiritual journey. And then ongoing failure or loss or difficulties can really help to keep the awakening process going. It can really fuel the awakening process. And so this is one reason why failure really helps with liberation. And that is because the separate self doesn't get what it wants. And so it forces us to look for something more authentic, or for something else. So we can try every which way to look in the outside world for what it is that we're longing for, whether it's happiness or satisfaction or peace or freedom, whatever it is that we're looking for that comes from this feeling of separation that we have, where we can intuit that something is missing or something is off or not whole. Then we look for it in the outside world because we've been conditioned to do that and told that maybe that's where we will find it and that's what everyone else is doing. But if we're destined for awakening, we won't be able to find it out there. And that may be very frustrating and very upsetting. But once we realize what it's telling us is to look inward, and that take the journey, the return journey home to yourself. And that's where you'll find what you were actually looking for that whole time. So that's one reason. Another reason why failure really helps to lead to liberation is because it helps to break the identity structure apart. And it does a really great job at letting that fall apart. So say, for instance, you're an athlete and you get chronically ill and you can't do that anymore. You can see how that could be interpreted as a failure or a loss or things not working out. And if we were very identified with being an athlete, then of course that's going to start to break that identity structure if we let it fall apart. And then hopefully we don't put together it once we feel better, or we start a new identity to replace that one. But if we just let it fall apart, it can really help with the awakening process and the deconstruction of identity. Or in my case, I was identified with being a dancer, and then I got multiple injuries within a couple of weeks. And so I just was unable to literally almost move at all, let alone dance. And it did a wonderful job at getting me to let go of that identity and to let go of the way that I was doing in that way. And really, I had the illumination to focus all that time that I was focusing on dancing to focus on meditating, which is what I did. And it significantly helped in the awakening process. And the third way is if we suffer from a severe failure or loss, such as an addiction and feeling like we're hitting rock bottom, something very serious, we can really get access to our essential nature if we are exhausted, if we've hit rock bottom, if we feel like we can't put ourselves back together anymore. This may allow for a glimpse of reality and to start the awakening process, because we just can't hold it together anymore through that very challenging situation that's happening. And also our coping and avoidance strategies that we have operating, and there's quite a number of them, most of them that we don't even know about that are operating, they really block us from being able to see what's true about reality and to face what's true about ourselves and how we're blocking ourselves. It numbs us from being able to access that. And if we're going through something very severe and very difficult, where we feel like we've lost everything perhaps, then during that time, it's often very difficult for us to put in action our coping strategies and avoidance strategies to try and feel better and to try and numb out. And it can help us to face what it is that's going on, the truth about what it is that's going on directly without any filter. And it can be very painful, but it can be extremely helpful for awakening because we get to see what's true and we get to face what it is that we're doing that is hindering our awakening process, such as an addiction. And so, how has failure helped you with awakening? I'd love it if you'd leave me a comment and let me know.